Hey everyone, and welcome back to our design tutorial. Where we last left off, you can see that we've now added some cool lens flare effects, and we've begun to really tie things together. So at this point, I think we're going to go ahead and add just even more details to this to really round it off and bring things home. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer at the top. Just press X on the keyboard to make sure my foreground color is white. And what I want to do is just add a few more of these rings first, which by now I'm sure you guys already know how to do this, but just going to go through the steps one last time. And you know, previously we had copied a few of our group folders, some of our other ring shapes, which you can do here if you want. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and use the same steps I used earlier to do this. Alright, so once your selection is filled, you can go to Select, Modify, Contract, and we're going to contract our selection by about 3 pixels. Alright, actually let's go back. Let's make it 4. Alright, so just go back here, Select, Modify, Contract, and we're going to try 4 pixels just because we want that line to be a little bit thicker. There you go. Okay, so you know, now we have a few of these shapes kind of floating around, but I'm going to go ahead and scale it down a little bit. Just do the free transform command. And let's see where we would like to place this. Alright, so we've got a few of these floating around, and you know, it's looking pretty cool, so we just want to keep things going. I actually kind of liked where I had it. I don't really have too many over here, so let's keep one of these. Maybe lower the opacity a little bit just so it's not as defined, not as obvious, something like that. Which is always good, you know, it kind of plays with the eye a little bit and gives that illusion of depth, like it's further back in space. Alright, so I believe this is ring 5, 6, ring 6, I guess. Let's just go ahead and, just go ahead and name it ring 6. And go ahead and call your group folder ring 6 as well. Okay. Now, what we want to do from here is just add even more, you know, definition and, you know, floating shapes in the background. But we have pretty much all of our large and mid-sized shapes. So at this point, we're just going to make a bunch of small ones in the back. Alright, and what we want to do first is hold down the Shift key and press M on the keyboard, and you'll notice that it's toggling between the selection tools. So if you just press M normally, you'll get the rectangular selection tool, but if you hold Shift and then hit M, it'll toggle between the other presets. And this works the same way with any of your other tools. All you have to do is, you know, press the original keyboard command, like E for the eraser, and then just hold down Shift and you'll toggle between the other tools that are available there. So, pretty handy shortcut. But for now, let's go ahead and make a circular selection while holding down the Shift key. And this will constrain your proportions so that it remains a perfect circle. You can also hold down the space bar while you're doing this to just move it around the screen. And we're going to keep it relatively small, so something like that I think will work. Go ahead and then hold down the Alt-Option key, and press B first to get your brush tool, and then go ahead and hold down the Alt-Option key to sample a color. So for now I think we're going to sample maybe something around here, like a nice orange tangerine color, and then go ahead and hold down Alt-Option plus Delete, and that will fill your layer with a solid orange color. Alright, so from here, let's see if these blending modes... Okay, so from here, I'm just going to add a layer mask to this, get my low opacity soft brush, and make sure that I have black selected. And I'm just going to slowly start to brush out some of this color here, and you'll see that the shape starts to recede into space, which is good. That's what we want. Okay, and we're going to make it even smaller. These are just like tiny particles almost floating in the background. Just very subtle. Alright, and you can go ahead and lower the opacity of it to around 50. just by hitting 5 on your keyboard. Okay, so I'm just going to call this, let's say, particle 1. There you go. And we're going to make a few of these just pretty quickly. So just repeat these same steps. Hold down the Shift key and drag your mouse outwards to constrain the proportions of your circle. And then hold down Alt, Option, plus Delete to once again fill that shape with your foreground color. And from there, it's about, playing with the size, where you do a free transform, and the opacity of these shapes. Some of them, you can feel free to leave some of them higher, some of them lower, but you get the idea. It's just to add even more depth and visual interest to our image here. So I'm going to go through it kind of quick. You guys understand by now the same process and workflow that applies to the rest of our image. So we can use that here and just kind of repeat the steps. I'm going to just name these really quick. Particle 2, particle 3, and scale it down. Now if you want, you can also hold down the Command or Control key and click on the layer thumbnail over here in the palette to activate a selection. And what you can then do is, we want a solid white color, so just do that. And we're just going to add a little bit of highlights using the same process that we used earlier on in this tutorial. So switch to overlay mode and add a new layer, and then hold down Alt Option in between the two layers to add a clipping mask to your particle 3 layer. Okay, and then I'm just going to brush in very lightly around the edges to add a little bit of highlight. And now you'll be able to move this circle around and resize it as much as you like. And you'll just have a little bit more value and variation there. So something like that. And again, I'm just going to lower the opacity accordingly. All right, so now we have a couple of these particles. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of keep building this this image up here, doing the same thing. And I know this can be a bit repetitive, so just kind of go at your own pace. But you guys understand how I'm doing this, so let's see. I need my white. Add a little bit of a highlight there. You just want to brush on the outside of the shape, just a little bit. Nothing too crazy. And go ahead and continue to name your layers appropriately. And then it's just about finding the right size, playing with the scale, and the placement as well. But again, feel free to play around with this as much or, as little as you like. Experiment, see what looks good, see what you like. Okay. This one's really small, but every detail really helps at this stage. You don't want to get lost in the details, too early on when you're building the composition. But at this point, I think it's looking pretty solid, and it's bringing it all together. So go ahead and repeat this again. And we just want to add, maybe 10 or 12 of these, just to kind of top off our illustration, and then I think we'll be pretty much set. So. You can add other shapes as well, but you want to just make sure that they have, a nice rounded edge so that they kind of fit together. Okay, so that way everything is, unified and cohesive. Okay, so you guys see how I'm doing this, and, I'm sure that you're kind of building up your own as well. So I'm just kind of playing around here and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. But at this point, I think we're looking good, and we are well on our way to finishing this up. Okay. There we go. Free transform. Scale it down. Press enter. For a moment I was just making sure that my my highlights were moving with me as I move the particle itself around. All right. I'm just kind of figuring out how low or how high I want the opacity here. exactly where I want to put this one. Maybe something like that. Right, and at this point, you've got enough of these. You can go ahead and select one and hit Command or Control plus J on your keyboard to make a copy of it, and just add a few more. Just want to spread them out, maybe rotate them a little bit so they're, the shading is on the other side, or experiment with the placement again. And just kind of put a few of these outside. They don't have to be really tight crops, close to our image here. In fact, we should put a few more on the outermost part of our image. Keep the opacity pretty low for these. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. Particle 3, just select that along with its highlights. Do a free transform. And then see where you want this one to be. Okay, maybe this one is up on the edge too. Maybe it's down here, 10 or 20%. Just on the outside. Maybe it's on the bottom outside. It's all a matter of what looks good to you, what feels balanced and interesting. Okay. So we're looking pretty good. I'm just continuing to build up the composition here. And, I may be going a little slow for you guys, just kind of taking my time to add these last little bits of detail. But you get the idea. Let's see what's happening here. And sometimes these can be, in little clusters maybe, or, maybe they do look better kind of spread far out. So, something more like that. It's subtle, and you really don't have to make these, 100% opacity. It's more just about getting the balance and maintaining it all as you continue to go. So, and you may decide to move some of these around, something like that. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Now I want to see which layer this is on, so I'm just holding down the Control key and clicking on this particle, and I can see it's a copy of particle 1, which I don't really like where it is, so I just want to move it somewhere else. Maybe it's coming off of the top or the side instead, but just to mix it up. All right, so something like that. And now I'm going to select my particle 1 layer, hold down the Shift key, and select the topmost layer. Press Command or Control plus G on your keyboard, and group these into a folder, and simply name it Particles, something like that. All right, so go ahead and save your work, and in the next lesson, we're just going to add a few more of these shapes, just small, subtle kind of details like this, and then we'll be ready to call it a day. So I'll see you guys soon.